Hello. And there is no need to introduction myself. I want to speak about the past.
For the first time, joined by two-time going on podcasts and talking about kickboxing champion Luke of Luke, and also podcasting professor emeritus LJ, formerly of We Are Rising, now of The Fighter, a cool magazine thing that you can read if you can read. And we are now going to talk about kickboxing and the kickboxing that happened.
I guess I'll start. Hello, everybody. I have absolutely no credentials whatsoever, so you shouldn't pay attention to anything I say.
Hi guys. I guess you're probably more used to hearing me talk about so it'd be nice to be talking about kickboxing tonight.
Oh yeah, and sorry to interrupt, but please, I've committed to the bit now of censoring, so try and say that as little as possible, unless someone is leaking like deeply personal details about your life, then just go.
That's great. It will set off the algorithm, won't it?
Exactly.
It's automatically picked up. Yeah, an early warning radar.
No worries.
So to kick this off, Leona versus Takeru. Little known fact is that like Muay Thai, kickboxing has its own idiosyncratic scoring system where only the first 2 minutes, 50 seconds of the first round count. So we're here to congratulate the new champion. Leona won. We're all on the same page there. But no, it was just like a great rare example of a 3-round fight that kind of had an internal narrative, which they rarely do unless there is trading knockdowns. And I mean, this kind of had that, but on a technicality. But yeah, like it was fun and interesting, and seemed to get a good reaction from the public. And I enjoyed it. It was tragic, but I enjoyed it. What did you guys think?
I think as just an advertisement for the sport, which I think events of this scale always end up maybe slightly being to a certain amount of people that are watching for the first time. I mean, I don't know how seriously I should take what Twitter is saying at any time like this, but it seemed like a lot of people were watching this event as their first real taste of Japanese kickboxing live, like being absorbed in real time. And I don't think you could ever conceive of a better mission statement or like summation of why this stuff is so interesting to a certain amount of people than how that fight ended up going. Yeah, it had basically everything, and it had about, it had a 5-round level of violence and content in about a round and a half of 3-minute rounds. So yeah, I think it was pretty phenomenal and did exactly what K1 wanted it to do. Absolutely.
I guess it was just absolutely amazing, right? As Luke said, the amount of action in that amount of time, but also there was this, incredible backstory to the two as well. And, Apparatus, he wrote that amazing article for the Fight Site. And I think it was sort of like, it was like the culmination of the sort of like the highest level of fighting in that sort of division for K1. And it was just, I guess that sort of hyped up everyone as well, just going into it before the fight. So I think, and the great thing was that it didn't disappoint us, I guess, like it met our expectations, I think.
Yeah, I think that is kind of a rare thing. Any champ versus champ, quote unquote, super fight thing tends to kind of shit the bed. But yeah, like I don't know how much it broke through to the public. I feel like they, at the best of times, do not do a very good job of really crafting a narrative about this stuff. And there was, when they had booked it for Yoyogi, they seemed to be trying to tie it to the old K1. And then as soon as it was booked for the Budokan, it was like they were trying to tie it to Max in like the 2008, 2009 era. But I really don't know that they did as much as they could with the material that they had, but it was still great to watch. But I mean, that's kind of in the weeds complaining about stuff, but I feel like having been personally invested in this, for me, like Leona showed that he could do it, but that he's unlikely to do it because he fights like he has emotional problems, which is really cool to watch, but it's also kind of tragic.
Yeah, I think especially in the first round, he showed that he had all the technical answers to Takeru's game. For the most part, it's just like you said, his disposition or his approach or his proclivity for just planting his feet and trading was it made the outcome of what it was inevitable. Unfortunately for him, if it wasn't going to happen at the end of the first round, it was going to happen in the second or third.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
that's just a characteristic of the way their styles mesh. I think he did. Yeah, he did it. He really. I mean, I understand how he's really perceived in Japan, but as far as like the foreign fans were looking at, the people who were really clued in knew that this was the hardest fight of Takeru's career to this point. Leona's physical stature at 60 kilos. Takeru's coming up all the way from 55 originally. He's long. He's got a great chin. He can bang. He's got cardio for 3 rounds. I mean, he was on a great run of form as well. He wasn't coming over from another rule set. He wasn't at any real physical disadvantage whatsoever. Like, this was a huge task for Takeru to come through here on a long layoff. Surgery on one of his hands. I think a couple of performances which made people kind of question if he had really like almost like ran his body to the end of its rope. I think Leona absolutely delivered on all the promise. He didn't win, but asking anybody to win against Takeru right now, I think is probably asking too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's in terms of how he's perceived. Maybe LJ has a bit more of an understanding, but it seems like people just have these thought-terminating cliches. And what was being said in the immediate build-up was because they've advertised him as like the strongest challenger, and people just kept repeating that. So eventually people came around and understood that this is a guy who is like a legitimate challenge, could actually win a fight, not like an Adam Buaruru style, like drop in to lose kind of guy. But also, I guess the public perception of him in the past has been that he's kind of not a very interesting guy. And I think it's really a failure of imagination to promote the man, because like his fights are really fun, and he came into this with the most interesting backstory you could, and they did very little with that. But he doesn't like help himself that much either. So I don't know if you saw the post-fight interview, and like some of this is because he was obviously concussed. Like they asked him, what do you think of your opponent? And he's like, well, he knocked me out, so I think he's good. But he kind of does that stuff in the past as well. Like the unspoken basis of the questions that they give you at these pressers is like, here's a few minutes to talk and promote yourself and make people want to see you. So when he beat Taiyo Asahisa the second time, the question was put to him like, so what did you think of your opponent? And he was like, well, I thought he was strong, but I won, so I'm stronger.
You know how you're just saying sort of the public image of Leona, before the fight? It's funny because I noticed on Twitter a lot of Japanese fans who weren't familiar with, I guess, kickboxing or Leona, but had sort of just, checked out what this fight was because Takeru being as famous he is, they were like, oh, wow, they've brought another random gaijin for Takeru to fight again who's just here to lose. Just because his name was Leona Pettas, right? Yeah. It was ridiculous, but I think with this fight, it got quite a lot of publicity. It was all over, Yahoo News the following day. So I think it improved the image of both fighters because, as Luke was saying, like people were doubting, Takeru's skills, maybe, because of his prior ones, especially like the Muragoshi fight and whatnot. Yeah, it was just a good result for both of them. I just loved this fight. Like, I was really happy with. I mean, you technically can't have two winners, right? But I think they both got something good out of it.
Yeah, nobody's stock went down, and like in the immediate aftermath, like there was this explosion of quite emotional responses people had. It was really strange. It's the first time, like I try and track the reactions of people that I don't understand the language they're speaking to this stuff. And there were so many people saying that it made them cry.
Sure.
Like I get it.
Well, it's very, very visceral, Yeah.
And the other thing, and sorry to like go from emotion to cold robotic business, was just how bad Abema's video on demand stuff performs. So people were ripping the fight and putting it on YouTube, and it would get like 500,000 views before being nuked. But in the entire week on the Abema video on demand service, it did like 300k views.
Is that because that's like a premium?
No, it was free,
Oh,
but
really?
people just don't care. I mean, like the value proposition of the service is that it's live linear TV. The investor perspective is like that's what's unique about it. But let's also try the VOD stuff. But it seems to be performing terribly, and it seems I don't know if the deal is related to, like I know they have TV through Gaora, the 1 week delay before they put stuff on YouTube, but that 1 week delay seems to be taking a real like wind out of the sails. Like if you look at the stuff that Ryzen puts out, is it what, a day, 2 days after the events? They do huge numbers, and this fight has just about crawled up on the official upload, at least, to just over 1 million views. Like considering the reaction it had in the immediate aftermath, they seem to have been outdrawn by people illegally uploading the fight compared to waiting it out and then uploading it themselves.
Yeah, I think this is the problem with promoters that don't effectively enough get those copyright strikes out there early, is when people watch fights like this, any fight, they'll generally just watch it once and then that'll be it. So if they get a chance to see a pirated copy in the first, 36 hours after it happens on YouTube, the vast majority of people that are going to see the fight are going to see it then because people are still talking about it, and then they won't watch the official one a few weeks later just because of the nature of this stuff. It's a one-time thing, people aren't really there's a small audience of people that will do that, obviously, like we're probably included in that, but the general millions and millions of people that this kind of fight might cross over to, for the most part, it's a one-time curiosity, buy-in. So I think that's K1 definitely losing out there on the copyright strike window.
I think in a lot of ways they are not particularly savvy to the digital arena that they find themselves in.
In terms of like just being so YouTube heavy, and that's not a Japanese service really, is it?
Yeah.
It is kind of interesting that it's outperforming like a Beamer TV so hardcore as on the video on demand stuff. I wouldn't have expected that at all. I thought it'd be the other way around, but
yeah. So like I don't know.
That's the problem for a Beamer. I mean, they're burning money, right? So
yeah, like huge amounts of money, and I mean they've invested and bought a stake in K1. So like I guess this is kind of part of their value proposition, but it seems like it is underperforming badly as a video on demand service, and two, it's also kneecapping the official YouTube thing, so not going great on that. But yeah, to draw things back, so Leona did this YouTube interview with these awful Zoomers, and they asked him about the fight pay. And interestingly, he gets a flat fee with no win bonus. But he also said that the purse is the equivalent of like 4 or 5 months in a normal job, but is boosted by KO bonuses. And I wonder if that is, one, whether that's like normal across the rest of the roster. And given the way people fight, it seems like it probably might be. But two, it's awful that if you fight like that 3 times a year, you could get like a normal salary. It kind of makes sense that, guys like Tsubaki Hara just have a normal job as well as being kickboxing champions.
Yeah, and didn't Leona go back, like before he entered camp for this fight, he went back to his old construction job, right?
Yeah, like he said he hadn't had to work for like 9 months or something beforehand. So he kind of like dips in and out of this stuff. But he'd also had this incredibly long camp. And sorry to be stalking the guy, but he recently deleted like a private photograph account. But like he'd done 2 camps, and then it seemed like in the middle of this 3rd camp, he kind of went on a small vacation. So I don't know, it seems like it was too much for the human body, but also too much for the finances to just like not have any income for that period of time when he's not getting paid that well in the first place.
Especially because that fight kept being pushed back as well, right? He was probably, expecting that income.
Yeah.
And then it's like, it's cancelled. Postponed, and then postponed again. And then he just had to pick it up, right? Which is not great, but unfortunately not unusual in the fight industry.
Yeah, I mean, there's no like real safety net if and especially these days with events getting canceled so often, and like there's just a new state of emergency been implemented. I don't know the details of it, but I know they are asking promoters to hold no audience events. So I suspect that they will just not hold events during the 2 weeks or whatever that it falls in. But yeah, it's really not a good time. Like Crush, they are now selling like season ticket kind of deals, and the prices have kind of been jacked up because, you know, the arena that they run in is not very big, and with being able to fit less people in there, it's kind of a sport subsidized by hardcore fans masquerading as sponsors. I don't know. I feel kind of bad. Like, don't go paying people $20K to kill themselves like this. But I know from like looking at public documents that the shadowy owner of K1, he's sitting on at least $14 million in stocks. So, you know, open up a little. So the other thing I had some notes on was the officiating. And it seemed pretty bad for a fight of this level.
Yeah.
Like, both guys have this unfortunate history of late hits, which cost Leona a like pretty prestigious amateur title. But since the fight, both have done these video interviews, and they both downplayed the fact that Takeru punched across the referee during a count. And nobody seemed to care. It was really odd. But apparently neither of these guys care, so I don't know how much I should care. But, you know, if they're both on the same page there, okay, fine. But, like, more importantly, and this didn't show up very well on the broadcast due to the, like, camera angles, but if you look at footage from the arena, when Leona got up from that first knockdown, he stumbled basically the length of the ring into the ropes, and you really should not let a guy in that state continue. It is dangerous.
Yeah, the officiating was really, I don't know, it felt messy. I mean, I don't really know anything about the referees that work these K1 shows, but the impression I get with them when it comes to fights of this magnitude, that they just don't really have they don't embody any real kind of authority in the ring to be above it and call it as just like a, you know, a club fight that nobody was watching, which is really what you should be doing at all levels. And when to your point about the knockdown, when Leona's second knockdown that wasn't really a knockdown got called in the I believe the second round, and the referee steps in, Takeru punches across him, they even announce it as with the number countdown on the tannoy, and the referee puts his arm up, and it was just such a, oh my goodness, it's a real mess. I mean, I don't really know if, I mean, this is obviously going to be this is a long-term structural problem with the standard of officiating that's just, you know, it rears its head constantly. It rears its head in unimportant fights as much as it does in very, very important fights. So, you know, the consequence is blown up because everybody's going to see it. But I think it's fortunate if the fight was just so good that more people aren't talking about it, because the degree of just messiness that was on show there, it could easily be a bigger issue than it's ended up being, as far as the controversy is concerned.
I guess the referee, I found his account after the fight, and he was sort of saying, not disappointed. He wasn't disappointed, but, you know, he was like, you know, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to redo sort of after what had happened. So, yeah, but it's hard in that situation, right?
Neither of the guys in the ring seem to care too much. Like Leona himself in this very long interview with these very young YouTube people, he just basically said, yeah, I was knocked out in the first round, so the second round was a bonus. I can't really complain, which is, you know, pragmatic, but you're getting brain damage through that. But I feel like, you know, one, the standard of officiating is not very good, but this is kind of a longer term, like Luke said, structural problem. And the referee is, I believe, primarily an referee.
Is it?
And he'd like refereed a fight with somebody that he'd fought before, which seems like, you know, the kind of thing that you would ideally not have happen. But I think there's such a small pool of people to choose from for this stuff. And I mean, I guess it's an improvement over the days of what you might call activist refereeing, like Nobuaki Kakuta, but still not great.
I guess like, oh sorry, you'll have to edit that post-production, but refereeing. It's a
Yeah,
lot more
stop cursing.
standardized.
Oh my god.
It's a bit more standardized. I think it's not perfect, but they've got the JMOC, and which basically has the sort of same judging guidelines across every promotion in that sport. Some of them have like different rules, right? Like shooter and Ryzen, for example, but they sort of have like regular sessions to try and make sure that the judging is, they're trying to address, I guess, the structural issue that the judging is not always consistent. So I'm not quite sure what kickboxing has in place to sort of overcome those issues.
I mean, my understanding is they have nothing, but also from on high, there is this desire on the part of K1 to stress that K1 is not kickboxing. K1 is its own, it's a sport unto itself called K1, and it's this very like murky, ill-defined thing, and they control everything from bottom to top. Yeah, I think the idea of like an independent organization ensuring some kind of standard so people are not getting knocked silly during a count is would be a good thing, but is never going to happen unless it's enforced by the broadcaster. Probably there is like zero desire to improve anything on the part of the kickboxing organizations.
This is why we need Adam Borirao to be back, because he was bringing that ISKA title.
Yes,
and
yes, the extreme prestige of ISKA.
Right. Okay, it's not to be taken all that seriously, but they are a third-party sanctioning body that, by the book, should be involved in signing off on who the officials are before they put their title on the line. I mean, officially, I'm pretty sure that's how it's supposed to work. I'm not sure they'd actually
officially,
put their foot down
ISKA title bouts are supposed to be 5 rounds, and they had sanctioned a 3-round title fight against their own rules. So I think they're kind of flexible as long as the right people get paid.
Oh my god, I think I bet I don't even know how they exist. I mean, they have like 50 different rankings for all the different rule sets and regions that their belts are under. I have no idea who's running this
I have no
organization.
idea what the distinction between some of those rule sets is. And if you look at like the date that people became a champion, it's like, you know, some guy from 2012 is still champion, and apparently
there's still like
the
Oriental rules, like Muay Thai. Yeah, it's unbelievable how like overly deep and complex this is for something that I don't think even the hardest of hardcore could tell you much about. Yeah, it's really, really something. But
well, I think there's been
with that Adam Borirao fight.
Yeah, I think there's been convergent evolution as well, because Adam Borirao is also now like fighting YouTube people. So it's, you know, the same thing is happening on different continents. So, you know, maybe we will just have a unified YouTube sanctioning body.
That honestly, that may happen at some point.
It may be an improvement too.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think that's what we need. Yeah.
But yeah, so aside from you know, sanctioning and rules and everything being a mess, and aside from letting a guy get knocked out and then not acknowledging the knockdown that he scored and not caring when guys are eating combos when you're counting, otherwise the sport is in great hands.
I guess it's like what happens from here, right?
Yeah, and I mean, like kickboxing will have events throughout the year, but then there's this like 3-4 month gap when nothing happens, and it seems to kind of reset itself every year. But now it seems like, you know, a bunch of stuff got truncated and slapped into the same 1 week span. I wonder, like going forward, how this stuff is going to be, especially like Rise now have their own big event in March. Maybe people will like fill the timetable a bit more judiciously. And if the purse strings are the same between the two big organizations, maybe there will be a bit more convergence and a bit of greasing of the wheels from the money men.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as from the business standpoint, the confidence with which they can bridge the gaps between the organizations, I think, is generally correlated to the degree of security they feel in and of themselves. Like if they feel solid, stable, and secure, you would hope, at least, if you would put yourself in their shoes, that would be like confident enough, like, okay, our business is running well enough and we have enough, you know, brand power and consistency that we can take a risk on a crossover event or whatever, or any kind of thing that's out of just their strict own calendar. COVID this year and last year and everything's obviously just been the giant spanner in the works. But it was interesting to see earlier this year, Rise announced their entire schedule of numbered events at Korakuen Hall for the entire year, I think in January. Knockout did the same thing and Crush did the same thing as well. So they've basically already put down the spine, if you will, of their entire calendar right from the word go with these lower level events, and everything I guess is going to be built on top of those with the 3 or 4 big ones that they do. At least for Rise and K1, I don't think Knockout are really going to do anything as far as scale's concerned, that out of the ordinary. I don't think they have the brand power or the star fighters to do that yet. I hope at least that they're building enough strong foundations, especially Rise. I think Rise generally over the last couple of years, they've really, really grown as far as just the amount of people that recognize their brand and come to them on a consistent basis, not just for tension fights, for actual undercard fights, and they're starting to build divisions and do tournaments and things of that nature. It's good to see them just creating some foundations for them to build on and hopefully survive when tension leaves them.
Yeah, and like tension is not their only star now. People are really into Kento. Yeah, like they have like pretty strong branding now. Like they have their own name for big events. I think one of the problems they've had before was, they would just number the events. But like there is a clear delineation between what is a mid-level event and what is a big thing. I think they'd perhaps not grasp that strongly enough. But yeah, like if you look at the 53 kg fights that they put on, they're fantastic. And if you look at what K1 has done in that space, it's been pretty terrible. And they've got this tournament now, but if you look at the relative quality of the guys in it, I would not be very confident picking the winner of that tournament against anyone in the like top 2 or 3 guys in Rise. But yeah, it's good that there's been this growth of not just one like dominant promotion. It is heartening, but yeah, Knockout, I think they're in a rebuilding phase. Yeah. And like they got the good branding now of the Knockout brand. It like cuts through the noise of Rebels certainly, but I don't know, the actual, because it was this weird like reverse takeover thing where Rebels bought Knockout and then just decided to become Knockout and axe Rebels, but Knockout had already like got this outside funding and then failed to really capitalize on it. So now I think it is gonna be like firmly in that second tier for the foreseeable anyway.
Yeah, I think there are really solid ingredients there. I think Miyata running the show is only going to be a good thing, but I mean, he probably recognizes this as much as anyone. They're a long, long way off. They're multiple years off being anywhere near the other two.
Yeah, I guess the big issue is, you can run a local event, you can sell tickets, but you can't grow from that without like broadcasting. But I don't think the broadcasting is really a huge source of income for these. Like if you look at what a numbered Rise event does on Abema without tension or a big name, it's like sub Crush quite a lot of the time.
Yeah. And Knockout's all pay-per-view, right?
Yeah, like everybody's doing like twit casting stuff.
So like you're basically only appealing to people who are already fully bought in.
Yeah, and it's basically the price of a ticket to go and watch anyway. So
oh my god,
I guess it's a hedged bet against people not wanting to come into an arena and get coughed on.
Sure, yeah.
The obvious thing in the room is Takeru versus Tenshin.
What? No.
I got the fight that I want, so I'm kind of beyond caring.
Yeah, no, exactly. You already won. I mean, the fight happened after like 2.5 years of build up, and it was as good as we all hoped it would be and everything. So anything for you is like a bonus now, right? I mean.
Yeah. I mean, like I think there is a very limited possibility that if this fight happens, that it is anywhere near as fun as what we just watched is. But there's also obviously this time limit on it now, and there's all these obstacles in the way. And I'm not sure, even if it happens, that it's going to happen the way people envision
You mean it's going to be the co-main event on a mega show to a Floyd Mayweather meme fight? I can't wait for that.
That is distinctly possible.
Yeah. I mean, LJ can tell us a lot more about this than anything else, but as far as I know, it was always set up to be hopefully before the Olympics, right?
Yeah, I think so. It was because Ryzen was okay. Sorry, I shouldn't say Ryzen because K1 has always been saying they refuse to have this fight on any promotion that's sort of like is existing, right? They want to do it on a neutral platform, whatever the hell that means. It's not going to happen in summer. Like just looking at how Japan's going through what it is right now. Although I did see news that Japan does intend to continue with the Olympics, so I don't really know.
I know. I feel like the idea that this would be some kind of fill-in for the Olympics if it got cancelled is a pretty bizarre notion. Like I know they do pretty well at advertising some of this stuff to like your grandma and people who really don't care, but it also seems like they're pretty wedded to this idea of getting international exposure through Mayweather. And I don't see Japanese grandmas caring one bit about that. And also, it's a singular event to make up for the cancellation of like weeks and weeks and weeks of television. I don't see it. And also, like I know they've booked the Dome several times now. And I don't know if that is, just in case some kind of emergency talks happen and that they can make this happen. But like the idea that this could happen in June or July, given the like bitter negotiations that have to happen, I don't see it. And I think the most likely thing to happen is since, Cyber Agent bought a chunk of K1, they also are the major sponsor of Rise and sort of hold the purse strings for both companies. If COVID keeps on keeping on, and even if it doesn't cancel the Olympics, like I still don't see how you get a third party in Ryzen to get this onto terrestrial television. I feel like the path of least resistance is an ABEMA pay-per-view.
Oh man, I don't know how I feel about how they'll like sort of handle I don't know, just thinking about the VTR they'd make for this fight.
What if the Dreamers show is anything to go off? Then it's probably going to be very inspirational and just looks like a music video.
So I haven't watched any of that, but I'm vaguely aware of Ren Hiramoto's younger brother or something being on it. But, the VTR stuff brings up a kind of important point, which is that there is exactly one guy who is adequate to amazing at selling this stuff, and he is nowhere near kickboxing. Sato is a master of a very particular craft, and if you want to do a big fight, you should go through him, regardless of how much money you may make anywhere else.
Yeah, hopefully someone just pays him to do a VTR just as like a one-time thing, and it's not even used for it. You can just use stuff he finds on YouTube, and it'll probably be better than the real thing. But yeah, like just looking at it from the outside, I mean, there's so many hurdles to get over. I mean, the broadcasting alone that looks like a nightmare. Because for at least from where I'm seeing, I mean, I could just be an ignorant foreigner here, but I feel like for this fight to happen, it has to be on TV. Otherwise, it's a fucking waste of time. Otherwise, it's just another online digital fight that's going to appeal to young people. Do you know what I mean? Like, and obviously it being on TV, that is an enormous problem. Discounting that, like it's something we should assume it's just easy to make happen. But Japan is, TV's going down everywhere. Japan, just like everywhere else. But like it's still, I feel like it's still probably the major mainstream platform for something for this event to be on. I mean, the Olympics are going to be on TV if they're comparing them on that level as far as crossover. But yeah, with like ABEMA being so heavily invested in K1, I don't know. Like I've literally seen like boxing fights, like Mayweather and Pacquiao was probably easier to sort out the networks with when they were both on HBO and Showtime, who were direct competitors. They got that done. That looks, from where I'm sitting, like that was a simpler, easier knot to untie than this one. This one is just, I can't even get my head around it, how it's going to work.
Yeah, and like every time it looks like there's a breakthrough, like, guys going to be in the audience of the other team's event. immediately afterwards, somebody does an interview. It's like, hey, so it looks like this is going to happen. And they just say, well, the rules, the officials, everything, the weight, no. So
Well, they showed up, yeah.
there is cold water poured on this every single time. And I do not expect to see it. I expect that by March next year, Tenshin fights Masahiko Suzuki and then goes and boxes whoever, wherever.
And that's gonna be. I mean, because at least from what Takeru's been saying, like he really wants this to happen more than anything. Tenshin, I don't think cares. I think he's already thinking boxing. He can take it or leave it. He knows what he wants to do with his career now, and kickboxing is his exit strategy has been planned. It's been mapped out. It's about to be implemented. It's all public knowledge at this point. But yeah, for Takeru, it's like, is he going to go back and keep fighting guys in K1 if this doesn't happen? Like, he's just overcome his toughest challenge ever. Hirotaka Asahisa is a great fighter at 60 kg.
Yeah, I mean, he's at a point where he could pretty comfortably retire, and maybe the awful monsters of the internet would have something to say about it, but he would have had an amazing career with a single professional blemish, but would have truly fought in a way that nobody at that level does for a long time, and had legitimate stiff challenges from other champions. And yeah, the one guy that they wanted him to fight is not even in the same weight class anymore. I think everyone walks away empty-handed, but I think it will probably annoy Takeru for the rest of his life in a way that it would not annoy the Tenshin camp. He's always had this external goal, and it was for a long time it was, I want this stuff to be on TV. And then it nearly was, and then there was a PR disaster last year for K-Festa 3. But it feels like now he's shifted that energy towards making this one particular fight, which I don't think is going to happen.
Yeah, he sure knows how to pick them, right?
Yeah.
I think aside from the broadcast issue, though, there's also that issue of weight. How are both parties even gonna? There's just gonna be so much negotiations, and fans at the moment, even though the fight's not even being confirmed, right? They're sort of fantasy negotiating what catch weight they'll basically go with. And I think in one of the recent interviews, I can't remember where, but Takeru was saying his natural weight isn't even 63 anymore. I think it's 66 or something. It's a lot higher. So him having to weight cut and everything is going to be a whole new issue. So even if we go past the broadcast issue, it might be that they won't be able to actually be able to come to a weight that they can agree on.
Yeah, I think this is going to be more complicated and longer to hash out than NAFTA was. So I have very low hopes. But if it happens, cool, I'll watch. But yeah, I think everybody is, everybody except Takeru has a plan to carry on. But yeah, as a guy who watches this stuff, I look at what's left for him if it doesn't happen, and it's there's maybe Hirotaka Asahisa after July gets one more win. That's pretty easy to make for K1, but beyond that there's nothing.
Yeah, I could easily see him maybe doing that. I mean, that's a great fight. Hirotaka Asahisa, he completely just ran game on Tetsuya Oiwa, Takeru's man friend, the other month. He looks great at this weight. I don't know what obligations he has with Wulin Feng, because they're still promoting him as their champion, and they're doing a tournament to set up to fight him. So I assume he's not going to fight for them again for a very long time. If he's with K1 now, I don't really see him crossing back over when he's on the cusp of a title shot in their money division. Yeah, I mean, logically, that's what we get next, unless they unearth some just absolute joker regional ISK champion like they did last time, and
yeah,
that'll be fun, I guess. I don't know. I'll be okay with Takeru getting another easy night at the office. It's not a problem with me, but it is reaching a point where the options for where he can go from here that are worth his time, because he's reached such a high level at this point, they're getting less and less.
Yeah, and I don't know what appetite he actually has for retirement. Like, it sounded like maybe he was getting there, because he kind of had this emotional crisis after he beat Murakoshi, but seemed to have like bounced back from that. And he seems like actually he could fight for several years more, but the material is just not there for that to happen unless they do like import a string of bums for him to completely destroy. And I don't think he's into that either.
I think he would retire if the Tenshin fight doesn't go on. And I wasn't actually watching his recent, I think it was a YouTube live or something. I just read a fan account, but it said something like he suffered some panic attacks, just leading up to the Leona fight. So I think he's like,
yeah, like he says he doesn't sleep for like 3-4 days on end before his fights. It does not sound healthy, and you see the pressure on the guy.
Lord.
yeah,
It is
like it's even when he's not fighting, I think like insomnia and mental health issues, it's like a real struggle for him. So I think if he's not fighting worthy opponents, it's probably not to stick around.
yeah, he's in this unfortunate position that he's the face of everything and makes himself so available to like all promotional events, and like has really taken on his shoulders the task of carrying this stuff forward and onward and upwards. And I really wonder what the landscape looks like if he retires. Presumably he would still be the company man and would do like tons of appearances, but when he lost that fight earlier in his career, it seemed like he disappeared for a while. And I wonder if maybe once he's done with this stuff, he just completely disappears off the radar or not.
That would be crazy. I mean, if you're K1, I mean, you've also got to, like you said, you've got to be really worried, because like this guy's kind of your business. Like, if you don't have him, who are you doing big events under?
Yeah.
Who's your big headliner? Like, I remember when Takeru had, I think it was the summer off in 2019, because he had hand problems and he couldn't do their big like July-August event or whatever. And they structured the whole event around Takei's tournament win. I think at 55 kg. That's when he beat both Kimura brothers in one night. It was that event. And it was great. And all the fans that we were all watching it were having a great time. It was a violent, action-packed show. But one thing that I could not get out of my head the whole time was how small the crowd was. And that stuck with me ever since, when I realized when they run big events without him, it's not the same kind of event at all. And if he retires, I don't see how they make up that gap at all, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it is real boom and bust stuff. And I mean, we've seen this several times recurring throughout history, but I think, kickboxing was at a real low point after FEG died. And it's kind of been built up to a stage where people can, make a living as long as they are, hustling 5 different jobs at the same time. But as soon as one of the golden geese dies, I think it goes back to a real dark time.
I just genuinely can't even think of who they would try to make the next star once Takeru goes.
Yeah, like at least Rise, they've got Kento Haraguchi, and he seems totally committed to the sport. He's pretty young, very marketable style. I mean, he's a million miles behind Tenshin. Obviously, he's probably not even a bigger star than Taiju Shiratori right now. But he's in that area to step into the wings. From K1's perspective, I've got no idea who you're gonna use. Philip, really? Like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, they've got a system set up that they can cultivate this stuff, but they also have a pretty strongly established pipeline from champion to boxer now. So.
Oh my God, the food chain just keeps getting higher, doesn't it? Yeah. Oh.
But like we've touched on a couple things there. So back in the day, FEG, they had Masato, so everybody wanted to be at his weight, or they could eat their way to heavyweight and get knocked out by European mutant men. 70 kg, it's not good, but it's fun. On this card, we also had Mike Joe and the Himalayan cheetah himself. It was, they weren't against great opponents, but I don't think Philip has very long left at the top of the mountain.
Yeah, I think the speaking of the Himalayan cheetah, I think he's fighting this weekend. I think he's fighting tomorrow in heat.
Yeah, it might be like today.
Yeah, so I mean, he's getting around. He's staying very, very active. That's great. I like Mike Joe's fight on this card a lot. He looked great. Got a knockout. Did Phillips, like petulant schoolboy taunt to the camera, which was fun. That's going to be a really, really fun fight when that happens finally. Hopefully, when Phillips healed up from whatever issue he had here. But yeah, 70 kg. It's a very fun division. But
yeah, I get the feeling he might sit out for a while and hope that both of these guys knock each other off, because they're both, physically at least, the style that he's not great with.
Sure, yeah. Oh, it is.
But it
yeah.
will be fun, which, cannot really be said for... I mean, he wins in fun fashion, and you get a nice, 30-second clip out of it. But the level of competition has not been, shall we say, great.
Yeah, I mean... people hate on Philip a lot because he's had a very spotty career. He lost to Crazy Horse Bennett under rules, and he's on loads of steroids now, and it's a bit of a joke. But I don't know. I enjoy his fights. They're like junk food to me. There's such quick hits of dopamine, like violence, dopamine, and adrenaline. I can't get enough. And the fight against the Himalayan cheetah was great. So
yeah,
they do a rematch of that, or he fights Mike Joe. I'm gonna watch. That's for sure. You are gonna watch.
Yeah, I think the round structure of these fights, it's hard to have a compelling narrative told in the way that a long title fight can have, or a boxing fight. But if you look at it at a meta narrative perspective, the events tell a story, and the story is always much more fun when Philip is in the middle of it, destroying some no-hoper. And I think he would probably beat Mike Joe, but I get the feeling that the Himalayan cheetah would bridge that gap pretty quickly now that he's not in high school.
Oh, is that what's happened since then?
Yeah, he very recently graduated, high school in his third language, and now can fight full time. So I think
he's only 21. Jesus Christ, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think
that's insane. Wow. Okay.
So I think he's gonna improve leaps and bounds now, and that's bad news for the other guys, because he looks, he's raw, but he can fight. He's got a body type that a lot of the guys in Japan at this weight do not, and has an insane chin.
Can't wait for that rematch with Minoru.
Yeah,
that's gonna.
I suspect that Philip doesn't make it through that one if the rematch happens. But he's got a gym now. He's got a separate source of income. So when he gets beaten up by a child, cool. He will live on.
Wait, Philip?
Yeah, I guess he's I don't know if he's the money, but he's certainly the nexus and the beating heart of Purge Tokyo.
Yes. Of course. God knows what Kubo's doing these days.
Well, I don't pay attention to him because that seems to be what he wants. But I think him and his equally weird brother are actually probably a very valuable resource for younger fighters. And, the elder Kubo is, say what you will about him torturing capuchin monkeys or whatever, but he's great at what he does. And I think he has a lot to offer some of these guys who, maybe have been hanging around Crest too long, getting flattened into pancakes by giant cruiserweights for no reason. So anyway, I only had one other topic coming out of this card, which is cruiserweights. Do they exist?
I mean, not only do they exist, I mean, that Ryo Aitaka and Animal Koji fight, I think that fight was almost booked. That was a joke booking because they look so similar. They have the exact same haircut and facial hair. And they just hit each other a bunch. Yeah, that was good. That was the mediocre level of cruiserweight fight, I think. And then the KG Karimian rematch, which is there a worse first round fighter than Karimian, who throws so much in the fight?
I love him
Jesus
so
Christ,
much.
that fight could have been stopped, just like the Leona Takeru fight. He got knocked down so badly that second time. I was for sure thinking he was done.
Yeah, and in the post fight interview, he was like, "Oh no, I didn't get hurt. I've been to the dentist recently, and he messed up my teeth. KG actually sucks. Don't worry."
Oh my god. Yeah, and that was also the really interesting thing about the build up to this fight was he was just talking mad amounts of ish online about KG. He was doing like photoshops of him.
Yeah, he was
I don't
like
even know where
following
this
him
came
with a
from,
camera
as far as I
after
know, KG
the press conference and like putting like, I don't know if it was Jaws music or what, but like it just seemed completely detached from the reality that he got his ass kicked so insanely badly the first time.
Yeah.
So it's very fortunate for him that he managed to win, because it would have been so embarrassing in retrospect.
Yeah, and boy did he win. He won with the most cruiserweight technique, which is the classic spinning back
It's
forearm.
his go-to move, and it works. I suspect if he fights the other Iranian cruiserweight, probably does not go that well for him.
Oh, Satari. Oh, dude, Satari's gonna hurt him. Yeah, that's gonna be a bloodbath. I love that as well. That's gonna be a great fight, though.
But the Itaka versus Animal Koji thing, I was really surprised at the way it went. Like after the first 30 seconds, it seemed like Itaka was just gonna steamroll him. But Itaka is coming off of detached retinas, so I suspect from here on out, this is his level. And that's cool. It's cruiserweight. This stuff is, it goes the way it goes. But I hope his eyes get better at least. But you'll have to tell me, because I am completely unaware of this stuff. But my understanding is that Animal Koji is not only an guy, but he is a not very good guy.
Luke?
No, I was waiting for you to say something. I've got no idea about his history.
Maybe that's a sign that he isn't so great of a fighter.
He might be really, really bad in that case. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So he fought on a bunch of ONE FC Warrior Series events, which that's like ONE FC's Contender Series. Yeah. Goodness me. Yeah. He wasn't.
Well, the one thing that stuck out to me was somebody said that he lost to, I don't know if it was a lightweight or a welterweight.
Nice.
But for a guy that big, does not seem to pretend great things.
Yeah, that's it. So he lost to Yuta Watanabe, who's a 5'11" welterweight who's 7 years older than him.
Nice.
That rules. So yeah, the K1 cruiserweight division is his home. Yeah, he made it.
I don't know.
Well, now there are 3 cruiserweight divisions. There is cruiserweight for the guys that are not quite fat enough to get beaten by Kyotaro. There's the cruiserweight for if you're fat enough to get beaten by Kyotaro, and there is super cruiserweight if you are too fat for that. And immediately after they announced these 3 divisions, Kyotaro was like, "Yeah, I'll fight in all 3." So I don't know why they've made the distinction, but they have.
Yeah, I don't even know what those divisions. I mean, do they have a plan here? I don't understand it.
No, it seems like they are making belts for the sake of making belts. And if you go to their website and scroll down to where the champions are, 50% of these are vacant. And I don't know if it's a TV thing where maybe they get more money if they have a belt on the line, but it seems they are expanding more rapidly than a cruiserweight stomach.
Surely it can't be K1's plan for, development once Takeru goes, right?
Oh no!
Oh, can you imagine a super heavyweight tournament where there's no international travel?
It's the golden age. It's the golden age again. Come on, it's all heavyweights. Yeah.
Well, now that they have this relationship with Heat, maybe they can do a super heavyweight tournament, and then the winner gets to get knocked out by a 70-year-old Jerome Le Banner.
That sounds bad.
Oh god, it's actually hard to make fun of it. Partially because it's only hypothetical, it's not real yet, but also because I can see all of this happening.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've paid attention to, but the last thing I remember of super heavyweights in Japan was that deep Megaton thing with the guy dressed like Mario.
Yeah, overalls Ariyama. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just get 8 guys like that.
Yeah, I honestly, yeah. That when you look at where they positioned them on this card as well, they were right at the end. They were literally just directly below Takeru versus Leona, the biggest, best fight this K1 has ever done. They were right before then. So I don't know if that's a statement of intent or whatever, but
That's the future.
Yeah, it's going somewhere.
So I think that is a very positive note to leave things on, is to let people know that now that you've had a good fight, the thing that has been hyped up for like 6-7 years is never going to happen. But what is going to happen is just like a katamari of giant fat people getting rolled around, and then eventually maybe one of them goes to Nagoya and gets destroyed by like a 70, 80-year-old guy who is by weight 50% steroids.
Love it.
Cool. So before we say goodbye, does anyone have anything to plug or any other topics they want to talk about?
I'll go first because I don't have anything to talk about. I will just say that come stop by the Beyond Kickboxing Discord. Go on the Beyond Kickboxing Twitter. It's the pinned tweet. Come and hang out. People be posting all types of stuff all day and all night on there. All the kickboxing and Muay Thai you could ever want and more, and a bunch of other things that you'll have to come and find out.
Yeah, and also if you don't have the doctorate necessary to watch this stuff live, or the technical know-how to, you know, be employed as a nation state level black hat hacker, people there will be very helpful if you want to maybe watch something.
That's it. Yeah, allegedly there may be live streams happening on there as well, possible.
It's all right. It's all right. Dana isn't going out for the Beyond Kick Discord, so. But I can't reiterate. It's like it's a great community. It's a lot of fun. People, you know, we discuss a lot of, you know, K1, Rise, basically anything. So it's pretty friendly. So I think everyone should pop in for a chat.
Cool. And do the plug. Say the thing. It's really good. It's a digital magazine thing which impressed the hell out of me. And you know, I don't watch, but I will read the hell out of any of these interviews. It's really fascinating. So, what's on the horizon?
It's very kind of you. I do have the second issue of The Fighter coming out hopefully soon. Perhaps by the time this has been uploaded, maybe it has been. It's been up already, but unfortunately it is another, or fortunately, depending on who it is, it's another fighter. But I am planning to get some kickboxers, you know, for future issues, depending on, you know, who I am able to interview. But yeah, if you guys could check it out, that'll be great. It's at thehashfighter.net, and you can also check out the interview on the YouTube channel as well.
Yeah, there are political issues surrounding interviewing kickboxers that you may have heard of. But yeah, like certain fighters seem to not care about these restrictions, and also then go on to social media to very briefly shit talk their boss and then delete it. So that's cool.
I love it. I hope he keeps it up.
Okay, cool. Any last words apart from that, or shall we call it a day?
I think that's it from me.
That's it from me.
Sorry, the amount of times I said that probably...
Well, I said it more than most, so it's my own fault, and this is a cross that I have to bear because I committed to the bit and did this to myself.
Yeah, it's like if you were like editing for PGTV, like an episode of The Sopranos. Just half bleeps, you know? So have fun with that.